have a Stump the Ranger thing, but she did not want to. By the way, girls, except for Betsy, do you guys hear
Yes.
in your ears? Yeah.
It's a little like.
That's just a.
Daisha, did you do something different with your sound? Because you're hard to hear a little bit.
Radio frequency.
It's happened to.
Can you just talk again?
Hey everyone, this is Daisha Jones with Expeditions in Education, and welcome to the Great Lakes Odyssey 2.
Okay.
Today we're in Indiana. What?
As long as you talk loud, we're okay.
I will. I was saying private things before, and I didn't want it to be heard. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Okay, so we need to reset for power points.
All these little hairs tickling the face.
I will head back to the beginning with that.
So if you want to pull your graphics, I got to slide up to the details.
Ladies, if you remember, I will ask you to give me some locations. And if we can keep in mind our other directions for that, that would be awesome. We all have on ears up here. 2 pair. The ones God gave us and the ones, so they're actually going to hear the question this time. And so I will probably not have to repeat it. So we're 2 minutes before we go live.
So you don't want to repeat it? You don't want us to wait for you to repeat it if it's addressed to us?
As long as you hear it.
As long as you hear it.
Okay.
Yeah. And, saying things like, well, that's a great question. How do rhizomes do their thing? Well, here's what we're going to tell you. And if you don't know, it's okay to say, actually, Em, I think you'd be a better answer for that or something, or Mara, whoever you are today. You're perimenopause, so you can be either one.
Oh, see, you took it to an odd place.
Are we live on camera? No.
I was reading this and I'm like, I am Mara.
Yes, on YouTube.
Tiffany, did you see that from Rodney? See if I can find that.
Yes, I'm on it. I got it.
You got it? Okay. I was still looking for it. All right. Count down to a few seconds.
Girls, you can go ahead and let them in, and you do all the talking, and then a little bit after the top of the hour, I'll go ahead and hit the video.
Everybody's coming. Here we go. Welcome, everybody. We are so glad you all could join us today. We are coming to you live from Indiana Dunes. You are going to love the program we have today. While you're joining, go ahead and drop in the chat where you are joining us from. Hello, Wyoming. We've got some people from North Carolina coming in and California coming in. We are so glad you are here with us.
I see Virginia in the house, and I see we've got some Michigan
Welcome,
friends.
explorers. Welcome to Great Lakes Odyssey 2, an adventure powered by Expeditions in Education in collaboration with Save the Dunes and the National Park Service Great Lakes Research and Education Center with support from the National Park Foundation.
This isn't just something you watch.
this is something you're part of. Over the next few days, we're traveling to 3 incredible national park sites: Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, Indiana Dunes National Park, and Cuyahoga Valley National Park. But here's the thing. This journey isn't just about where we go. It's about what you see, what you wonder, and what you discover. You'll meet scientists, rangers, and real people working every day to protect these places. You'll explore towering cliffs, shifting sand dunes, and living wetlands. You'll uncover stories hidden in water, wind, and land. And along the way, you'll start to notice something important. You don't have to be in a national park to be an explorer. You don't have to be a scientist to ask big questions. And you don't have to wait to make a difference. Because this is your Odyssey. So get ready to look closely. Get ready to think deeply. Get ready to care. Because every observation you make, every question you ask, and every idea you share matters. Let's explore. Let's discover. Let's protect. Welcome to Great Lakes Odyssey 2.
Great Lakes Odyssey, water, wind, and sandy shores. There's so much to explore. Hey, hey, come along and see. We're learning.
Hey everyone, this is Daisha Jones, and welcome to the Great Lakes Odyssey 2. I hope you were dancing along in your seats. Great Lakes Odyssey. I love that song, and I love that you're here with us today at Indiana Dunes National Park in Indiana, thus the name. We are here on a beautiful, gorgeous day. It is chilly out here, but the sun is coming out, and we're so glad to be here as part of the Great Lakes Odyssey 2. Now, this is powered by Expeditions and Education, with collaboration from Save the Dunes, the National Park Service Great Lakes Research and Education Center, and funded by the National Park Foundation. So right now, can you give a very quiet but warm round of applause to all those people that are helping us today? We're so excited to be here. This is year 2, Dr. Aaron, and year 2 being at this park. Also, if you remember, in 2024, we were here in the marshes talking about invasive cattails. So a different story to tell today, but are you glad we're back?
I am thrilled, and if you remember, I actually am a geologist by training, so I'm so excited that I can actually take you to the Indiana Dunes where we can talk about one of my favorite things, sand and the dunes.
Yes, and you are, and I'm saying this with love and affection, a geek. You love all things geology. So if we have any of the students in our audience today that are thinking, wait a minute, I love rocks, I love sand, they could have your job someday. So you're actually work with the Great Lakes Research and Education Center. Tell us just a little bit about what your daily duties are.
Well, my daily duties actually range. I work with a variety of parks, which is part of the reasoning behind the Great Lakes Odyssey. I wanted to take everybody with me to the different parks that I know and love, because each one of them is so different. But again, they all exist on one of our best freshwater resources in the world, the Great Lakes.
The Great Lakes, I think I heard you say, represent 21% of fresh water in the world. Is that right?
Yes, fresh surface water. So there's fresh groundwater, there's fresh water locked up in ice and in glaciers and in snowfall. But as far as surface water, water that's easy to get to, water that we like to kayak on and swim in and fish in, and some of the best ecosystems in the world, this is the largest freshwater resource.
Well, welcome home. That's
Thank
where we
you.
are today. So as you remember, we were at Pictured Rocks National Lake Shore a few days ago with snowing while we were there. But guys, it was actually warmer there than it is today. I think the temperature feels like 15 degrees. but we are very warm and ready to go and excited to share our stories with you today. One of the new faces you're going to meet today is Em. And Em, you have a very special job in this whole partnership because you work with Save the Dunes.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and then tell us about where we are.
Sure. So I'm Em Racine. I work with Save the Dunes. I am their community engagement and communications manager, and we're here on the southern shores of Lake Michigan at Portage Lakefront and Riverwalk in the Indiana Dunes National Park.
So we have multiple places here in the park. So obviously we have these lake shores, right? But we also have other places in the park that we've talked about before, and students can do some research. But you're smiling really big. You must love this place a lot.
I
Give
do.
us just a little bit more about this place.
Sure. So here at the southern tip of Lake Michigan, we convene many different ecosystems, beaches, dunes, wetlands, prairies, forests. We're one of the most biologically diverse regions in the whole national park system here in Indiana.
Well, then for today, this is our favorite place, our favorite national park site. We'll talk a little bit later about how this place became a park, but let's go ahead and get into what Ranger or Dr. Aaron loves so much about this place. Now, I have a question for you, and this question actually came in a few days ago.
Okay.
What is the difference between a dune and a beach?
What a great question, and it's actually something that we try really hard to teach people when they come here, because every part of the beach, the dune, is its own little unique ecosystem. So generally speaking, if you were to look at the lake and you were to stand along what you would think of as the beach, then the beach is what we think of as the area where the waves will run up and run down. The sediment that is there is being moved by wave energy and a little bit by wind, but basically every part of a beach can be touched by water. And then if you go just a little farther inland, there's going to be the dunes. So dunes are going to be landforms composed entirely of sand, but that sand is actually moved only by wind.
Okay.
And the other piece of it is that here in the Midwest, when we talk about dunes, our dunes have vegetation. And that's very different from something you might think about if you ever go out to a desert area. You'll see dunes there, tons of wind-blown sand in different shapes and sizes, but it's not typically anchored by vegetation. And here again, in the Indiana Dunes and other Great Lakes parks, we have that vegetation that is a critical part of our ecosystem. It will anchor the dunes, so I love to say that dunes are more than sand, they are habitat.
They are habitat. So I think this is going to be one of those times when we need our journals out. So if you have your journal near you or some paper and a writing utensil, let's go ahead and put beach on one side and dunes on the other. And I know one thing we can put on the beach side is that we're really driven by the water, and the water is going to be touching those areas. And then for the dunes, we're going to have some vegetation or plants there. Now, I will say that every lake shore, every place that touches water has their own unique pieces to the story, right?
Absolutely.
There are some places where you're encouraged to be on the dunes. There are some places where you're not, and it just depends on the ecosystem and the needs of the place. Now, we're going to talk about that a little bit more, especially bringing in our people from Save the Dunes. But you spoke about vegetation. So let's talk about one of your favorite pieces of vegetation out here that really helps those dunes stay secure. I think we're talking about marram grass. Let's talk about that.
That is one of our favorite plants here, because you have to remember that right at the edge of where the beach ends and the dunes begin is still a very harsh environment. If you've ever been in the Midwest or the Great Lakes during a winter storm, you know it is cold, it is windy, and so not much can survive right there. So think about these grasses as being extremely hardy, and they work as like a colony. They work collectively as their own little community. So marram grasses, they look like grasses. They are going to be very sturdy stalks above ground, but one of the most important things about them is they have what we call rhizomes, a very intricate network of very thin root systems, and the grasses like to be buried, which is helpful, so they can take all that wave energy, the wind energy. They catch the sand that's trying to move across, and as they get buried, they continue to grow up, and they continue to put out their roots and shoots in every direction, and they will be sort of the first thing that anchors the ground and starts to transition us from being sand to soil and creating a unique habitat.
Well, you know, normally we like to bring in people to help with this, and Marram Grass does so much that she just came right in on her own without any breaking news alerts or anything, which makes me think that she is like maybe all that, we don't know. But Mara, you're here. Mara the Marram Grass. I love that you just made your entry kind of quietly because you wanted to know that you're not going to be stuck up about this, but you are very important to this. So tell us about yourself.
Well, I heard my name, so I thought you were ready for me to come say hello.
Well, we
And it's so
are.
nice to see you.
Yeah, well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Why, Mara? A lot of time people don't notice me. I kind of sneak in sometimes. But I'm not tall like the trees, and I'm not loud like the waves. But I'm here and holding everything together.
You are. Well, let's talk again. I'm going to have you step back just a little bit and come a little closer to Dr. Aaron and tell us a little bit now that you're using those words. Let's use it now on this Marram Grass. Talk about those rhizomes and things.
Okay. Mara, is it okay for me to touch you a little?
I guess.
Oh, okay. You always have to ask permission. We keep our hands to ourselves otherwise, right?
Yes.
So, and typically on the beach, we ask people not to touch the grass. So I see you have two different sections to yourself. Here, this looks like it represents your rootlets, or technical term for that is the rhizomes. What an intricate network you have.
I do. They grow really deep. I have deep, deep roots here at the dunes.
And then up above ground, wow, these are really firm, sturdy blades of grass.
Yes, be careful, don't break them.
What are they good for?
Well, I am really sturdy. I stay in the dunes, and I like to hold on tight to the sand. And these help me, of course, collect sunlight and to provide some shade as well for maybe other critters that are running around in the dunes.
So, Daisha, you can see how just with that difference right there, we can see how the rhizomes are going to be great for holding the sand in place. But then these blades of grass are perfect for trapping windblown sand, letting it pile up. And then also you can envision this is more of a habitat.
It is. Well, I love the way you look, but I'd like to see it in the real world too. So I'm going to put on a video here, and I want you to talk us through these Marram grasses that you saw yesterday, that we saw yesterday. So we're looking at that now.
We are, and we are actually at a very special place that we're going to talk about a little bit later, but this is Mount Baldy Dune, one of the biggest dunes we have. So here I'm just kind of showing again how we have these very sturdy blades above ground. I'm going ahead and again, it's easy for me to kind of touch them, but then down below, it looks like tiny little threads. They are that small, but is this very intricate network again of the rhizomes that really help this grass extend and spread, and so it can hold the sand in place. And you'll see the grasses again kind of form in these communities and sort of spread outward. Oh, here you can see the beautiful seed heads. There are no seeds on them right now at this time of year, but again, you can kind of imagine when we want to collect seeds, which we're actually going to do in the fall as part of a restoration project. It's really fun because all I have to do is kind of run my hand over it, and then we can release the seeds right there. Right now, too, I'm looking at something a little bit different, but I'm looking at a tree that got buried up on the dune, and you can see there's some brown stringy things that actually looks similar to the rhizomes, but it's actually mycelium from fungi that are eating that buried tree.
Mycelium. So if we're putting some notes down here, we have rhizomes first, and I believe I'm going to try this. R-H-I-S-O-M-E-S.
Close. R-H-I-Z. There's a Z. We snuck a Z in.
There's a Z. They changed that from yesterday, boys and girls, because I am positive that on my script it said an S, but we'll go there. I made a mistake. And then we have mycelium. Let me try this one. M-Y-C-E-L-L-I-U-M.
Yes.
Yes, really?
It's hard for me to do it in my head, but yes.
North Carolina Scripps spelling winner, 19...
You don't have to say.
81. That's me. Oh, so I did good. I would have gone out on rhizomes. I'm just letting you know that. So you are very important to this place.
I think so.
Yeah. You support the sand.
Yes, the dunes wouldn't be here without me. Just saying.
And how did she get here? Do you know that question? Oh my goodness. Dr. Aaron does not know the answer to a question. So I think that means she has stumped the ranger. Wonk, wonk, wonk. And she stumped it before kids even asked the question. So they're native. So we can say that.
They are native, and I do want to say too, if you go out to the ocean coast, there are also grasses that look very similar, beach grasses, but the genetics are different behind them. And so the grasses that you'll find in the Midwest are different, though they look similar. And here at the National Park, I mentioned the seeds. We only want to plant and spread seeds for the actual Midwest variety so that we can keep the genetics of the vegetation in the park consistent with the place and native, even though they look so similar.
Well, and that just gives us this point of remembering the principles of leave no trace, that when you come to a national park or public lands, that we take only pictures. Okay, and we leave with memories. We don't take anything with us, because although this would be a cool piece, when you put it into a place where it doesn't belong, it becomes non-native, and in some places invasive. Just to tie back to last Tuesday, the hemlock woolly adelgid were from East Asia. They came over here years ago, and now they are hurting the trees because the trees here, the hemlocks, don't have the natural predators that would take care. So remember that. Leave no trace, take only photos. So thank you for joining us, and we're going to let you hang out here because we feel like the camera likes you.
Oh,
Yes, I love that. So small but important for sure. I want to talk more about this idea of the beach versus dunes, if you will. I want to talk about many things, but first of all, can we talk a little bit about the sand? So, and we're going to do a couple little demonstrations with the sand. So yes, Em, I touched you on your elbow. That means bring out the sand. Thank you. Mara, since you have
to hold it really
relationship-
tight. Can I hold it?
Yes.
you can. You can hold it. So one thing that I just wanted to, again, kind of clarify is that what's cool about a beach, one of the many cool things, is that every particle that you find is going to be reflecting the energy of what moved it. So if you ever go to a beach, usually the sand on the backside of the beach is going to be kind of smooth and soft. But then when you get close to where the waves are crashing, you might have to run across a little layer of pebbles or at least coarser sediment. And that's because when the waves crash at the beach, they have so much extra energy, they can actually move bigger particles. But then as you get farther away onto the beach, the grain size is going to shift. So as we study a beach as geologists, we can actually look at the sediment and think, this tells me about the energy that was there to move it. And when we get to the dune itself, the dune is going to be all very uniform size grains, and so we call that very, very well sorted. So our sand is a little bit wet, but we're going to try to do a quick demonstration here. I collected some sand from the beach and then some from the dune. So, maybe we can do it without the shaker.
What is this called?
So this is what we call nested sieves. I haven't tried to do something with so many parts on camera before.
Let me see if I
think you're good there. I just don't
Okay.
want them to break apart. So inside, you may have seen these before in your classrooms, but it's a bunch of different sieves, which means there's a grid to it or a mesh, and it goes from big holes down to smaller holes. So each piece is, hold that, Mara.
always try this at home, kids, before you come on camera.
You should.
Because sometimes it might not work.
Sometimes it sticks. All right, little sleight of hand here.
I held it tight for you.
Thank you. And again, we said this is a little wet, so it may give us some fits and starts. But if we pour in the dune sand and shake it, it will largely go through and collect. It's giving us some trouble because it's wet.
Well, this reminds me of when my mom used to make biscuits, and she would put flour inside of something called a sieve or a colander, and she would shake it, and the really good pieces of the flour went down into the bowl to make our bread, because if it was too big or too clunky, it wouldn't taste as well. So that's what's happening here. She's put the sand in there, and as she shakes it, it's getting finer and finer and finer, like the best stuff is coming down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Again, we just collected this about an hour ago, and we had a huge storm here last night in Indiana Dunes National Park, so it's a little bit wet, but it is happening. So we're going to try to get the camera to zoom in just a little bit so you can see. She's going to move her hands to the back of the sieve.
And you can see that most of it is collecting at this one sieve right here. And that's the key to a dune. Pretty much all the sand is going to be the same size because it gets sorted by the wind. So we say it's well sorted. Let's see if we can do it with the beach sand then.
So if we went to another place that had beaches, this would look different in different places. I know that the sugar sands down in Pensacola, Florida have a different texture. They have a different color.
They have a different mineralogy too. They may be, if you go down
A
to
mineralogy, come on, give me that word a little bit better.
All right, well, you got to think about what is the sand made from, because it's just broken down particles. In the Great Lakes, we were just at Pictured Rocks. They have amazing sandstone cliffs, which means it's just pieces of sand glued together. So when the waves crash against it, that same sand just gets mobilized and becomes the sands of the beaches. When you go to a coast like Florida, then typically the sand is actually going to be made out of crushed up coral and shells from the nearby coral reefs. And so that's what I mean by minerals. The minerals that we see in this sand are going to be mostly quartz, which is the same mineral that's in glass. But if you are talking about ocean coast and it's coming from coral, it's going to be largely like a limestone or a calcite, a totally different mineral and different sizes because it's breaking up very close. Oh,
I'm going to pass this to you.
You know what?
I'm going to
Can
hold
you
some.
Here, I'm going to hold this one.
Yep, because I'm going to put a little bit in my hand also.
I was going to say, you need to see
so
this
we
guy.
can. Oh, what is that?
Yeah, so this is we took this from closer to the beach and we actually have pebbles. So again, that should kind of be telling us in our head like, oh, it takes a lot more energy to move a bigger particle. The other piece.
All right, we'll take this piece back.
But again, since it's being stubborn, I think what you have in your hand is kind of demonstrating the point.
I'm going to be your demonstration. See the sand here? Yes.
Okay,
So
you're
basically
shaking.
we're saying that dunes are moved by wind.
Yep.
And beaches are moved by water. Did I get that right?
You did. And so as you look here, you're going to see we're getting a whole mess where the bigger particles are going to be stuck on the top sieve, and then some of the smaller particles are going to go through, but very little is getting down to the bottom here, which is where our dune sand was, because the smaller particles move the farthest.
Well, you've just had a moment of love because you got to share all of this. I'm going to pass this over.
Me and my sand.
Yes, you and your sand. And we're actually going to pass this over to someone who's going to pass it off screen so it makes sure it doesn't blow anywhere. So I have this sand right here, and I'm going to make sure I return it where I found it. So we're going to put all this over here. So that was a lot.
I know.
That was a lot of things, but that's fun to sort of understand the difference of.
Yes, and thank you for letting me geek out about sand. It doesn't happen all that often.
Absolutely. Well, I want to go a little further now, and I want us to talk about this whole idea of sand going to marram grass and then going to maybe a forest. And I think we call that a trail of succession. So we were able to go to
West Beach.
West Beach,
Yes.
West Beach yesterday. So I'm going to put up a graphic here. Kids, this is another piece where you are going to bring out your pencils and your journals. And that's not our question, so we're going here first. So how does marram grass do all these things? How do plants hold it? Well, we have something called a trail of succession. So in your journal, and you don't have to draw this now, but teachers, if you can demonstrate on the board, we just want a sort of a squiggly line. Okay, and we're going to talk about 4 different stages of this trail of succession. So Ranger Dr. Aaron, start us off here with this first picture.
Okay, well, if you look at that number 1, notice just over to the left of your picture is going to be the lake. So Lake Michigan in this case. So we're going to start on the beach, right?
Yeah, we are. And here we go.
Yep, so if you guys want to make some observations at home, is there vegetation on there? Anybody on here see vegetation?
I don't see much.
Yeah, not really. I mean, again, there are going to be things that live there, lots of insects and smaller things, but there is not much vegetation, again, because it's a pretty harsh environment. Beaches are supposed to be dynamic. They're supposed to change, and vegetation would kind of limit that.
So we call that a bare beach?
We could call that a bare beach.
I like it. B-A-R-E,
Yes.
not beach. All
No
right,
bears here.
Now going to the second piece.
Yes. So we're moving inland a little bit, and this is what we were just talking about with our friend Mara, is that there are these grasses that are hardy enough to start to take root. And so they're going to grow here. This is going to be kind of the first little habitat we can talk about. They're going to anchor that. And again, the dune is going to grow taller as the wind moves the sand, but the marram grasses catch it.
So stage 1, bare beach. Stage 2, we have some marram grass going in there and stopping some things.
Yes, and we would probably call that the fore dune, F-O-R-E.
Fore dune.
Yeah.
Before, yeah, okay,
Or
here we go.
front dune. Yeah, that's what it means, is the front dune, because there are other dunes that will be behind it.
All right, here
So
we
you
go.
might find some little cottonwood trees there too, but it's mainly the grass, because the grass is going to set the stage for soil development.
All right, so let's go to stage 3.
All right, now stage 3, you can see this is, and again, remember, this is older, right? So this is sand that has been held in place longer. So the marram grasses allowed us to get some soil formation. There are dunes back there, so you can see the ridges, and then in the low-lying areas, we might even get wetlands. And there are very special wetlands called pans, P-A-N-N-E-S, pans. They have a lot of biodiversity, but if you look around the edges, you can see there's more complex trees that needed some soil too. So can I say the names?
Yes, so we have jack pine
Yeah.
and tamarack.
Tamarack. Yep, and there'll be probably some cottonwoods in there too, but it's jack pine, tamaracks. What else did we say? Yeah, that's the bulk of it, I would say.
All right, so then let's go to that last stage.
Okay.
Okay?
So this is where things look really different. This is more of what we would call a mature forest. So again, the soil has been in place and developing for decades now, decades to centuries. And so what we find is that now we have mature forest, and here in Indiana Dunes, that is mostly composed of oaks, and in fact it's black oaks. And so the temperature in there feels cooler, the sounds are different because of the shape of the leaves and how they flutter, and you just get, again, another habitat only, 100 yards inside and away from the beach.
Which makes this a very diverse ecosystem. So many
Exactly.
great things. So let's see if you caught all of those things. We're going to put our screen back up one more time, and we are going to look at now our completed chart. And teachers, this chart was created for this project, so we'll make sure this is up on the website. But now you have those 4 places. You have those bare dunes. I think we even have it called 4 dunes on here
I
for
believe
the
we do.
second. Then we have the word spelled out for tamarack. Right, and we have jack pines, which have really cool pines. I like to look at those. And then we have that more mature area, that more the community of bigger things that look completely different. In fact, to me, this reminds me of a fairy tale.
Yes.
Like a little fairy tale forest. You start out at the water, and then as you move in, then you're surrounded by woods. So such a cool place to visit. Now, there's a man's name that we're going to bring up right now that kind of talks about this, or brings all this together. Let's talk about Henry.
Okay, Dr. Henry Chandler Coles was an ecologist, and as he was traveling through the area, he noted the extreme biodiversity of the Indiana Dunes National Park. And again, if you go back to that drawing that we had, what he really noticed is that how the vegetation changes as you go from the lake inland, which again, we should emphasize, what you're really doing is walking backwards in time. And so he said, this is amazing. I can understand with the same type of sediment, it's all sand, that the only thing really changing here is time. So I can understand how one species then sets the stage and is replaced by another species and another community of species, and then that again is replaced. And that's what we mean by succession. Each plant community then sets the stage for a new plant community to come in behind it. And so that's one of the reasons why Indiana Dunes became so famous, is because it's actually, again, a living laboratory for ecologists.
I would think that if one of those things were missing, it would mess up the biodiversity of the place, or things happening if people went in and cut down trees or pulled up the marram grass. That you would miss something in that succession. So we shouldn't disturb that, right?
We should not disturb it, and it can happen. I mean, imagine that you have a wildfire. A wildfire can come in and it almost sets the clock over again. And even that is really important in the dunes, because we want to help maintain habitat, and then prescribed fire can be part of the tools that we use here to keep different parts of the park in different stages of succession.
Okay. Well, I noticed that Mara is a little impatient over there because she doesn't feel like she's helping. But I think sometimes we learn more when we move. So I'm thinking it might be a good idea if we do a little dance. Now, last couple days ago, we did the woolly adelgid shuffle. But today we are going to be doing something called the marram grass Mamba. All right, so students, if your teachers give you permission to do this, would you please stand up? And we are going to speak these words to you and do some movements, and then you'll be able to do this in your classroom. So let's start with, it's almost like a story. Ready? Roots down, stomp, stomp, sway, don't break, left, right. Catch that sand, scoop, scoop. Grow up tall, reach, protect the dunes. Hey! So let me speak this to you again. So when we say roots down, we want to stomp, stomp, because marram grass goes deep into the sand. When we say sway, don't break, remember that Mara has really, really strong head roots or grasses that are coming out. So sway, don't break is left to right, which is going to be opposite on your screen. Catch that sand, which she loves to do. In fact, she was grabbing the little jar of sand we had. We're going to scoop and scoop, and then grow up tall, because she's extremely tall, but she's also extremely tall down under the sand too. And then keep your hands up and say, protect the dunes, hey! And then we're going to spin around. So we have quite a crowd here of teachers that have come to help today, and they're not doing it with us, and I'm really disappointed in that, which means I'm not going to pay them. So they're going to have to try to get that back again. So we're going, everyone that's joining us at home and school and here at Indiana Dunes, I want to see this happening just a little bit better. So roots down, stomp, stomp, sway, don't break, left, right, catch that sand, scoop, scoop. Grow up tall, reach, protect the dunes, hey! Now, the last time we're going to do this, but I need a little mamba in it. We gotta have a little something going on. So, roots down, stomp, stomp, sway, don't break, left, right, catch that sand, scoop, scoop, grow up tall, reach, protect the dunes, hey! Yay, we are protecting the dunes. I love that. Thank you for doing that with us. Go ahead and sit down. And that takes us to another great introduction today. Ranger Erin, Dr. Erin, she does a lot of great work here, along with so many volunteers that we met today. We have rangers that do all sorts of things, from administration to biology to visitor presentations. But there's also this other part that we sometimes don't see, and that is these friends, these people that have gathered together to make places like the national parks, Indiana Dunes National Park, so special. So we are glad to have with us today Betsy, and Betsy is the executive director of Save the Dunes. And she's also part of a team, along with Katie and Em and others, that allowed us to be here and do this project. So first of all, Betsy, thank you so much for being here and for allowing us to do this. So tell us a little bit about yourself and Save the Dunes.
Sure. So as you said, I'm the executive director. So we have a team of 7 people that work at Save the Dunes. And one of the really important things that we do is we support the Indiana Dunes National Park. And we do that in a variety of ways. We have restoration projects that we help with. We have public access needs. We even have bought land and given it to the park so that it can come into conservation. So these are the ways that we can partner with the park to protect this special place.
I love that. And I've watched on your Facebook group about you have moments when volunteers, as you say, can come in and do things with you. Have you had a special moment of that, like a special project you've enjoyed having volunteers help with?
Yes, there have been so many, and one that just happened that was so incredible is we've been doing 25 years of restoration work in what's called the Great Marsh. So one of those wetlands that happens right before you get towards those 4 dunes. And it is a really important resting place for migrating birds. Here at the Indiana Dunes, we have over 350 species of birds that visit our park every single year. And one of those very special visitors is sandhill cranes. And just in the last few weeks, for the first time in over 100 years, thanks to the restoration work that we've been doing, sandhill cranes have visited our park in the thousands. And so being a part of that restoration work, we've had volunteers in the Great Marsh planting native plants, cutting down invasive cattail, and to see the fruits of that labor come to fruition has just been so special.
I love that. And yesterday, when we were out here sort of looking around, we had 5 of those sandhill cranes fly over, and we were able to catch some very shaky video of that. I love that you're helping the park, because Dr. Aaron, you can't do it all by yourself. We need people. We need marram grass to grow deep and save the sand, right? And keep it from moving too much. We need the rangers here to interpret this place, to protect the resources. We need Save the Dunes to do all the stuff that can't be done in a regular day. So I love that you're working, Mara's working, the wind is doing its job, the water's doing its job. We're all working as a special community to make things happen. So thank you so much for doing what you do and continuing to save the dunes. Em, you're part of this.
Yes.
And you're all excited over here, but I want you to talk to us a little bit about what you do and then what we can do.
Yeah. So one of our really big working components is community engagement and outreach and education. And that is a big component of just letting people know what they can do to help save the dunes. So that looks like staying on designated trails and leaving no trace, making sure you're packing in and packing out all of your trash when you come visit us, and learning about all of the special biodiversity here in the park, like whether it's birds or plant species or different ecosystems that we have here. The more you get involved and the more you learn, the more special and magical this place becomes.
Well, you mentioned something called social trails, and I think we might have a graphic for this, I'm not sure, but what are social trails? Is that just when you go out and talk on your phone, or there's got to be something
We
else?
always say social trails are not for socializing.
Okay, so we have one on the screen now. So we have sort of 2 things we're going to see. One is what it is, and one is what we want it to be. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so a social trail, also known as a volunteer trail, is a unmarked pathway that's created by people going off trail or exploring over the dunes in areas that are technically off limits to visitors.
Okay.
And the more that people transverse those areas, they step on Mara's very sensitive and delicate root system and essentially kill the plant off, which then, as the plant dies off, the sand is exposed, which then leaves it vulnerable to erosion and blowing away. And the more people who walk on these unmarked paths, the wider the trail becomes, the more damage that's done, and then we lose stability in our dunes, which cause erosion and a plethora of other issues we'd like to not have happening in our park.
Going off trail means that someone before us built a trail for us to follow. So I know that park rangers, along with back in the day Army Corps of Engineers, and back further then the CCC, built these trails for us to enjoy what we could see here. But they were very significant, or very determined that they're going to make these trails for us to stay on. So people are going off those trails, maybe for convenience, instead of walking all the way around, they're cutting through and no one's watching, and then someone sees that, or the next day sees that some of the weeds are down or the grass is down. Well, I'm going to do it too. There's another reason for this too. I've got a photo that you sent me of some swallows, I think is.
Yes.
So let's go to the screen. Tell us about what's happening here.
So these are bank swallows, which are a really important native species that nest in the side of the dunes. And when you go off trail, you begin to damage their habitat. So they create their nests deep into the side of the dunes, and the more that you're walking on those areas that are off trail, you're damaging those areas. And unfortunately, this little bird has lost over 80% of its population over the last 30 years. So we really want to implement staying on designated trails. Indiana Dunes has 50 miles of marked trails to explore. So plenty to see that have been marked and designated and monitored by our rangers, so that you keep yourself safe and all of our habitats safe as well.
Well, you're doing this now, and we're
Yes.
trying very hard to follow the rules, and we're trying to put, things out so they will follow the rules. But that's not the way it always was, and there was a reason that Save the Dunes became what it is. I have another slide up here I want you to talk about, and to me it looks like these people might be a little angry or energized about trying to solve a problem.
Yeah, so back in the 1950s, this area was really slated to become all fully industrialized, and local residents right here in the shoreline communities organized together to make sure that this land was preserved for conservation and recreation and enjoyment in its natural state. So Save the Dunes was founded in 1952, and it was not only protests and public gatherings, but advocacy, reaching out to our legislators at the time, encouraging them to see and understand the beauty and protect it for the future generations to enjoy.
Well, we have a lot of teachers here today with us, and a lot that are watching in their schools. So I think this next picture will make them happy. Can you tell us a little bit about this special lady?
Yeah, so Dorothy Buell is the founder of Save the Dunes, and she was an English teacher, and she kind of stumbled into her role as a leader of Save the Dunes after attending a meeting by chance. And she saw the value in organizing her neighbors and her friends to educate them on what their power of their voice and the power of what they wanted to protect could do. So her small group of 21 women from her living room grew and grew and grew to thousands of signatures, and the rallying support of senators and representatives that eventually got our land designated by the federal government to be protected indefinitely.
So one voice really matters. A shout out to all of our teachers out there, her being an English teacher. I would also share that this is, when we're filming this, is in Women's History Month.
Correct.
And I know that you celebrated her on a Facebook post.
Yes.
So it takes all of us. It takes grass, it takes wind, it takes water, it takes people making really good choices. So it's not just like one or two people are doing the bad things. We've got people that are just not paying attention. I'm hoping that people will see this and went, wait a minute, I didn't realize the swallows were losing their habitat. I just thought I was cutting across or rolling down a dune or something. I want to give opportunity now for our students to try to solve some problems with us, but let's go ahead and look at what we want them to do in our student design challenge. So students, how can we support Betsy and Em and Mara and Dr. Aaron in this effort to save these dunes, protect these dunes, stay on the trails? Before you start thinking about your idea, I want to talk to Dr. Aaron, because unfortunately we're having to do this because some people aren't paying attention and aren't being good humans. So yesterday we were allowed to go over to a place called Mount Baldy. You referred to that earlier in our live stream. I have a little video here. Can you talk to me about what is happening over at Mount Baldy?
Sure. So Mount Baldy has a long history here in Northwest Indiana. Back before this was a national park, it was probably the tallest or one of the tallest dunes in Northwest Indiana. In fact, people used to even hang glide off there, and it became famous for people running up and down the dune, tumbling down the dune. And here in Indiana, because we've learned it's a habitat and it's a national park, actually you are not allowed to run up and down the dunes. So it is against the rules of the park because it actually degrades and destroys the habitat. So it's different than maybe some other places that people will visit where there's not vegetation or they have different rules. So Mount Baldy then became so devoid of vegetation, right? Basically bald, which is ironic because it was not named for being bald, but it became completely bald. And what happened then is that the sand is free to move. And so as the wind has been blowing over the decades, it has moved, the entire dune has migrated or moved inland, okay? It's because the winds come off the lake. And unfortunately, there's a lot of infrastructure right there. So it is burying our parking lots. It is burying our bathroom structure, is close to burying the bathroom structure. And so we are about to engage in a big restoration project, thanks to Save the Dunes and their work, to be able to bring back marram grass. So we're going to do a lot of planting with our very special plant, and it can be that simple, right? Is that we have to put back the vegetation that was supposed to be there. But again, it's hard. We have to ask people to stay off of that dune. And so again, I think what people can do is that they have to ask questions, because as I mentioned, the rules are different in different places, and we never believe that people try to do something wrong. Instead, they may just not understand the rules. And also, marram grass is so fragile that the second it gets broken and we see a social trail, it looks like a normal trail. So what people can do is actually look for maps or even on apps. The National Park Service has its own app, although everyone wants to get away from phones when they're in the national park. But it will actually tell you where the designated trails are, or just ask a ranger too. And then you can help yourself and your family and your friends make the right choice.
Well, we do have some signage that we already have here in the parks. And so with that, it's already there. So we're encouraging people to read those signs. So here we have some stay off the dunes. This is not a trail, and keep off the dunes. And then if you need something bigger, we have this, and these are set around the parks. And again, you're doing the right things. You have these things in place. It's now that we have to work on ourselves as humans. Am I going to follow the rules? Am I going to try to make this place a better place, not just for future generations, but for the now generation, right? We want people to be able to enjoy this now. So yesterday we had some young men climbing a dune, and when we saw them, they were getting ready to roll down it. So Dr. Aaron just said, hey guys, we don't do that. It really hurts the vegetation. And they're like, oh, okay, well, sorry, we didn't know. And they walked down. So my hope is, if you were those two guys, that you won't do that anymore, right? That you'll stay away from those dunes and do the right thing. So I'm gonna, I don't think that's me. Oh, you're showing behind me. I love our tech crew. They are so techy that I thought they just turned off me, like they were tired of me or something. But they're showing you these dunes where those two boys better not be up there right now, because I will go after them. So we want you to think about how you can create something that will help the National Park Service get people to listen. So we do love our phones. We do love tech. So maybe you create a little skit, maybe you dress up like marram grass. Please ask permission and don't tear things up in your house to dress up like marram grass. But maybe you do a little skit, and then you create a QR code that Save the Dunes can put on one of these signs, so then they can scan it, because we love to scan things, and you're up there saying, don't do it, save the dunes, don't hurt the birds. And it could be that, it could be a t-shirt design, it could be a new monitoring system where if they go over the dunes, hey, get off the dunes, and they're going to think like big people are around there trying to get them off. I don't know. It could be anything. I want to protect the birds.
Yeah.
Like really thinking that might be a good opportunity, thinking about things we could do to protect the birds in case we have people that are still going to do that.
Oh, and there's lots of critters that live up there too.
Other critters.
Yeah, we have snakes. We have a six-lined racer. It looks like a little chameleon, but it's a little lizard. We have plants that have come down with the glaciers, so they're like a little piece of history there. Our Arctic bearberry,
okay,
even some prickly pear cactus, and
so
of course
a lot
the
of
birds.
things we can save. So that's a lot, but you can do it. We know you can do it. That's why we spend time creating opportunities like this to get your voice. You don't have to wait until you're an adult, till you're grown up. You can make good choices now. So I think we're going to go to some questions right now. Boy, we've talked a lot and we've danced a little bit and we've written a little bit, but now we want to hear from you. We've already stumped the ranger once. We might stump somebody again, we never know. But let's go ahead and turn it over. Miss Zimmerman, Miss Bell, Miss Gray, tell us what's going on.
So some of the classes were fascinated by the pebbles, and they wanted to know more about this shoreline. Would we find seashells there, like at the ocean? Would we find big rocks? What does the shoreline at Indiana Dunes National Park look like?
I'm going to let her answer, but I'm also going to tell her that this is a 1-hour show.
I know.
And she cannot go into these rocks a lot. So let's stick to Miss Bell's question from students. What will we find seashells there and that go there?
Yes, so you will find different rock types. You may even find fossils. You will find shells. A lot of the shells that you find there are actually from zebra mussels and quagga mussels that have invaded the Great Lakes. So that's the most common type of shell, kind of fortunately and unfortunately, that we're going to find. And one thing I do want to point out, because we have so many Great Lakes parks, is that the sand and the sediment will look different at every beach you go to, a different color, a different size. So please explore them all.
Well, and I'm going to add to that, there are waves here.
Oh, of course, yes.
Now, I grew up on the East Coast, and I had oceans and waves all the time, but I'm assuming those waves have some part in bringing in those shells and things from the lake floor.
They do. The waves are the main mechanism for carrying it in. And actually, I will point out too, the ice. I was fascinated. We found thousands, probably millions of shells on top of the ice this year because the waves were crashing onto the ice. So remember what we said at Pictured Rocks, get out to these natural areas during every single season because you will see something different every time you go.
Nice. Great question. Do we have another one?
Yes, we do. Students have been absolutely fascinated with the Miriam grass. You mentioned earlier, I got two questions. You mentioned earlier, why do you want people not to touch the grass? And then are there any animals that call it home?
So Mara, you've been shaking and shimmying over there for the last 20 minutes. I'm not sure if you were cold or just wanted to be on screen. Both. So tell us a little bit about the question there.
So I already forgot. The first part of, what happens if we step on the grass? Was that one of it?
Yes.
Well, my stem will break. I then don't have the energy. I don't have like the stability or power to hold on to that sand as much. So when the wind blows, the sand blows too. And so then I lose my power to hold on to that sand. As well as there are so many different critters that are running around, and I do provide habitat. So for those, I see toads up there come and visit me, lizards, we have birds that stop by, insects galore, some really neat beetles, even spiders, butterflies come and land on me once in a while. So yeah, there's a lot of life happening. Things are always changing and moving all around me. But remember, I stay put.
I will add one more thing too, that whenever we have a habitat, it's best for everything that lives there if it's in kind of bigger connected pieces. So like we saw in that image of West Beach with the social trails, it's called fragmentation. You draw a bunch of lines and you fragment what was a big habitat into lots of little chunks, and then more invasives can get in at the edges, and it causes a lot of damage.
It does. I will say, Mara, that you have been very interesting today. In fact, the tech crew is having a hard time gathering your greatness in one shot. So sometimes we just see your face and all you're up there, and then sometimes we see the bottom part. We actually have time for 2 more questions, and I know that that's disappointing, but we are going to capture all of your questions and send them to this team to answer. But let's go with 2 more, please.
All right, let's go with, what is the height of the highest dune you have there?
All right, so that was a little hard to hear, but I think I'm just going to restate it. The height of the highest dune.
No, you did not stop me.
She knows it.
So I'm going to say about 120 feet high. I like to talk about dunes in terms of their elevation above sea level because they are about 720 feet above sea level, but that's like about 120 to 130 tall package of sand. And the only reason why I hesitated is because there are taller dunes outside the boundaries of the national park in our sister park, the state park over there. So
Yeah, that's a great thing to know too, kids. There are 2 parks here. There's Indiana State Park, and then this actual park here used to be called Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore, and then was given a designation as a national park. So 120 feet-ish.
yeah, more than 100 feet is very common.
Yeah. So our last great question.
So we know that the dunes are fresh water, but is it safe to drink the water that come out of the Great Lakes?
Well, I always say no because someone could have just peed in it. I'm just saying out there, and I don't want to go there. But do we drink the fresh water?
I feel like Em wants to answer this
Yeah,
one.
we do drink the water from the lake. It serves over 40 million people their drinking water. It's obviously processed before it comes out of your tap at home, but it is a freshwater drinking source.
Yeah, so just remember that. If you are going to drink it and it comes into your kitchen, it's been cleaned. We're good.
Yes,
We're
good.
very good. Well, I want to say a couple things as we wrap this up. First of all, I believe that there are some amazing kids out there that are ready to do some work, to do some things, to share their designs. You can share those designs. Teachers, we will sending you a link to a Padlet where we're asking you to upload any designs, videos, creations so we can share with the park. But the other thing is, sometimes you want to do something more when you feel invested in it. So Dr. Aaron, I think it's time for us to swear in a whole new generation of junior rangers here. So kids, if you'll go ahead and stand up, and we're going to get ready to do this. And we're all going to take the oath with you. So you can spread out on us, and let's take this oath together.
All right, repeat after me. As a junior ranger, I promise to learn about the plants,
I promise to learn about the plants,
animals,
animals,
and history of Indiana Dunes National Park.
and history of Indiana Dunes National Park.
I will share what I have learned
I will share what I have learned
about national parks
about national parks
and will continue to explore our national treasures.
and will continue to explore our national treasures. Amen. I think that worked very, very well. Well, I just want to thank all of you for being part of the story today, for telling more about this place than I even knew. I'm going to ask that our teachers come on up, and we're going to practice something called a sorority squat, where they're going to sort of bend over, and we're going to make them hold that for just a minute or two, which is going to be tough. So these are all our amazing teachers and other staff, and we also have Katie, who's part of the Save the Dunes, who's come out today. So on behalf of Expeditions and Education, Save the Dunes, the National Park Service Great Lakes Research and Education Center, the National Park Foundation, our amazing moderators behind the screen, Miss Simmerman, Miss Bale, Miss Gray, our tech guys, Dave and Steve, and Mara the Merrimgrass, who made a visit today. She's got to go back to work. We want to say thank you. Get out there, save those dunes, save the land, love the land, and be a good human. We're going to leave with a little shimmy. Woo! Thank you so much. Yeah. We're shimmying. We're still shimmying, ladies. Don't stop now. We're still on camera.